The older I get, the more I realize that I'm kind of preferring more open source, free kind of software solutions and hardware solutions when it comes to everyday problems over the like standard offerings that you find like Windows and Google offerings and whatever. For instance, when Windows 11 started forcing people to have Copilot on their computer, I just really wasn't about that. I mean, you figure the ads in Windows 10's start menu would have been the kick for me, but no, actually it was this Copilot thing. Didn't really like that at all. So when I got my new ThinkPad, I decided to go ahead and install Linux Mint on it. I'm not really a Linux guy at all. I took a class for it in college, but I have not used it consistently very much ever. I've been using it now for like probably a month or two, and I like it so far. I mean, for just general use, like everyday stuff, and even the occasional video editing. I mean, that iDog short that I made a couple days ago was edited in Kdenlive on Mint, so it's got a lot of useful stuff. I'm really excited to learn more about Linux. On top of that, I've been a pretty big Google fan for a while. Like after using the iPhone, I moved to the Pixel, and I really did like Google software and their hardware and stuff. But again, the older I'm getting, the more I'm kind of preferring to not have every device in my home be spyware. So even on like my Pixel 8, which is like my daily driver smartphone, I installed Graphene OS on this guy. I had tried it before on my Pixel 7 and I did not like it a lot. But now it's got Android Auto support, and I finally figured out that you can kind of bypass some of the very restrictive features that make it so certain apps don't work, which makes it a totally usable device. I've been using Graphene now for probably like 3 or 4 months, and I mean, I love it. I haven't had any issues with it. I use F-Droid for a ton of apps, and it really has become a very integral part of my daily carry, so big dubs on that. On top of using Google's smartphone, I had used Google Smart Home products for a long time, their speakers, their screens, all that stuff, and eventually got a doorbell because I wanted something that I could use as like a security camera. And you know, this was just something that worked into the system I was already using, and it's just kind of something I was familiar with, and it was something that was easy to use for my wife, so it really worked out. But again, is this really the thing I want, taking video of every single thing that goes on in this friggin' apartment? I don't know. So I came up with the idea that maybe it would be kind of fun to make my own self-sufficient open source security cam. So I did some research, and what I found out is that you can use a Raspberry Pi to kind of create something like this. Now, I have had this bad boy, this Raspberry Pi 3 Model B, sitting on my desk for probably like 3 years now. Like, he's just been sitting there, he ain't been doing nothing. I got this for Christmas a couple years ago, and I just could never find a purpose for it. Like, I could never decide what I wanted to do with it. I mean, I had actually thought about making a security camera type deal for it before, but it was much more monkey brain than the method I'm going with now. But now I'm like for real in it, so I actually really want to dig into it. So that's what we're doing today. I thought it'd be kind of a cool project to record and show off, especially after the DS soldering video did pretty okay. So I think maybe this tech stuff, I mean, I like doing this stuff anyway, so I think making videos of it would be a lot of fun. So that's what we're doing. With all that said, let's go ahead and detail the extra components that we're using with this Raspberry Pi in order to really make this project full and complete. So first off, we got the actual camera module that we're using, which is this guy right here, and I can't remember the name. Let me see if I can pull it up. I can't seem to find where in the world I got it. I know I got it off Amazon, but I can't remember the exact name. Basically, I'm following a tutorial when I do this, and they have the camera detailed in the tutorial. They have it linked, so I'm going to link that tutorial in the description if you're interested in doing something like this. But yeah, so this is the little camera that we'll be using. He's looking pretty legit, you know. He's looking a little robust, if I may say. Very little convenient little camera. It's really cool because it has this infrared on it, so it has the ability to detect motion, which was a huge thing that I wanted. Like, I didn't want to have to manually go in every time to check the footage to see what's up. I wanted it to be able to detect motion and take specific videos only when motion's detected. I did not want it just to be taking constant video because I'm not using a large SD card when making this. I have this little 16 gig SD card right here. It's really all I had lying around. Most of my SD cards are in my 3DSs, of course. So I guess spoiler, that's the SD card we're using. But yeah, this right here is the camera we're using. But I got more than just the camera because I wanted it to be a little robust, you know? I didn't want it to be just a camera. So I got these light modules as well. So these just attach to this and it gives it kind of like little floodlights. Now the camera came with this cable, but this cable is obviously very, very small. The way that I'm picturing mounting this thing is that basically I want the actual Pi to be sitting kind of hidden, as where the camera can't be hidden, right? It has to be in view. So I ordered this longer cable, like reasonably so. So with this longer cable, hopefully we'll be able to hide the Pi to where it's not really easily visible and still have the camera in good view. And of course I had to get it in black because it just looks a lot nicer than the blue and white. Yuck, you see this everywhere. No one wants to be that guy. I want to be this guy. The last thing I got is a new case. Yeah, this guy, I wanted a new case just because I wanted easy access to the ribbon cables. And I wanted a fan because if this guy's going to be running continuously like that, I don't want to rely on just passive cooling. I'd rather have active cooling on it. And I do say new case because this is the case I had before, which is just this little closed box, little piece of trash, which is what this guy was in for a long time. But I knew that I wanted a new case when I did this, and this guy seems like he'll fulfill all of our needs. And we got the fan right here. And of course, I lost the power adapter to this thing. So luckily, this case came with a new power adapter. So that's great. You just don't have a lot of 5-volt, 3-amp adapters sitting around, you know. If you have one of those little USB blocks, you know, that you get like from the old iPhone boxes and stuff like that, they're typically like 1.5 amps or 2 amps if you're lucky. Hardly ever 3 amps. So I needed a new one. With all of that, we should be ready to roll. This should be everything we need. So I figure the first thing we'll do is get it in the case. So I got my trusty screwdriver right here. I am not going to clean up the desk at all before undoing everything. So we're just going to dig right into it. I'll go ahead and apologize for any and all camera shaking. The workbench is a little wobbly. I'm going to figure out a better solution when it comes to that. But for now, you just might get some wobbly footage, so sorry. The way this thing is like layered is so interesting, and I feel like potentially a huge pain in the butt. So my question is, where in the world does the actual PCB sit? I'm guessing just flat on this thing, right? Unless I'm insane, but that would make the most sense to me. I think that is in fact how this works, because it looks like that little black piece is a spacer. And then I think we just build it from here, so. So we'll take off a couple layers here just to make things a little easier on us. And I'd say the first thing we're probably going to do is go ahead and connect the ZIF connector, just so it's already attached and so we don't have to do it later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this bad boy up to kind of make that happen. In fact, I might have to take even more layers off, which is fine. Okay. And we unlock it by pulling this tab up. We just slide that bad boy in. Yes, sir. And we lock it back down. All right. That is a locked ZIF connector. Or ribbon cable, I mean, whatever. In fact, ZIF connector might be entirely different, so I could be totally using the wrong term. If I am, call me out on it. I might cry a little bit, but don't let it alarm you. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and open up the fan here and get it attached to the case. Alright. And there he is. Very cool. Now, this set, or this casing set, did come with its own cooling pads. I'm gonna hope that these guys I already have installed will be fine. So, of course, these got, well, I don't know. I think we're just gonna try and use those. I really would rather not have to try and pry them all. I think it'll be a lot less ugly if we don't have to do that. I feel like I'm like cross-threading it, like that's not supposed to go that way. Okay, that feels a little better. All right. I really only got one messed up, and that's because of course I did, right? It can't be a fun computer project where nothing goes wrong, right? There always has to be one thing. Like this guy, as you can see, is just free spinning, as where the rest of these are totally fine. So whatever. I guess it just is what it is. So okay, we're gonna get this guy pulled in because we have to send him through the little slit here. All right, and it's looking like a little professional Raspberry Pi project. Ain't it looking so legit? Yeah, it's obviously still not put together. Okay, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and plug it in for more of a high-speed configuration. I'm gonna make the assumption that given that it's going to be streaming video constantly, it's probably going to have a fair bit of pull on the CPU, my guess is. So we're just going to go ahead and plug it in for more of a high-speed configuration. All right, I think everything's plugged into the Pi that needs to be plugged into it, so we're going to get it screwed back together in the case. And I'm just going to skip through that, and so you guys can see the finished product. Okay, we got no jank screws on this one, so the case is going to be screwed up just right. Ain't no issues here. Check it out. This thing's actually pretty alright. I mean, I also just like transparent tech, so that's always really cool. But yeah, that guy is ready to go. Okay, so I figure with the Raspberry Pi done, let's clean up around here. What are we, pigs? Alright, that's more like it. So, with the Pi put together, I figure let's go ahead and assemble the whole camera assembly. That way it's put together, and then we can kind of attach it to the Pi. So the way that it shows is, which actually is really cool design. There is no additional power that you need to attach from the light to the camera. It actually transfers power by these contact pads that are on the board. So you just screw it in like this, and it gets all the power it needs, which is, like I said, super sick design. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and screw these together and get them all put together and whatnot. This is super weird and like incredibly awkward to try and put together. So I'm gonna kind of do it kind of jank. We know that I don't do anything jank around here, so I hope you guys can forgive me. Ah! We shall not break the fun toy we just got. Alright, that is pretty sturdy, if I do say so myself. So, we're going to go ahead and open up this connector here. I'm going to need a little help to get into, it looks like. Should be able to just slide them on in here. And lock it in place. Alright. Everything is hooked up just as it needs to be. Awesome. So you can see here I'm using this tutorial to kind of make this whole thing. So right now we are at the point where we want to install the operating system onto the flash drive now that we have all the hardware assembled. So we're going to be using Motion iOS, given the recommendation of this website, and it's told us to download the SD card image and the formatting tool and blah blah blah, and WinDisk Imager. So we kind of already got that. Right over here I got my handy dandy SD and micro SD to USB, and once again the micro SD card we'll be using. So we're going to go ahead and get that prepped and get it flashed. All right, all seems good. Not that I would actually know. I literally have no way to properly verify this thing within my own volition. So we're just gonna go ahead, I guess, and see if it works. So let's see what the next, so let's go ahead and see what the next instructions are. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and hook it up, and then we're gonna kind of see where we need to go from there. Guys, it's not working. Oh no. Like, look, the fan is spinning and the light's on. The cameras obviously are doing something. It is not acting as though it's getting any kind of internet though. In fact, the router is not even showing lights. So yikes. Maybe I just need to reformat the SD card. I don't know. Let me try that. Let me try reformatting it and reflashing it. What are the chances that there's an issue with that Ethernet cable? Give me a sec. This seems like it's not booting, like it's not doing anything. Dang. What's something else I could try? I'm wondering if maybe the SD card's not working? Because it just seems like it's not booting into the operating system. Once again, we're going to try it again, but instead of using the recommended one, we're going to see if Rufus can fix this problem. All right, I'm trying it right now. If this doesn't work, I think I might just have to try and find another SD card somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and look for that while it's trying over there. So once again, give me a minute. Okay, so just to verify some things, I went ahead and tested my laptop using this adapter here, and it got connection from the Ethernet just fine. So using this adapter, I tested this adapter via this adapter on the Pi, still nothing. So I'm almost certain it's something to do with it not booting into the operating system and therefore not being able to take the network connection, which I am assuming is due to something with the SD card not being good. So I'm gonna go see if I can find another one. I'll report back when I do. Okay, so Nokia 8110, the 4G KaiOS one. Turns out that I have a 16 gigabyte SD card in here, so we're gonna go ahead and just snatch that bad boy. See if we can't use him. Maybe he'll turn out better. So let's get him plugged in and get this OS installed. Okay, so from what this is saying here, some backstory. The issue that I'm getting is where basically a giant color grade type image comes up on the screen and nothing else happens. I took to Google, just like any good research technician does, and it seems like this might be an issue with Motion iOS itself, potentially being out of date compared to the firmware that's on the board. So I found this other document that's saying that it's probably better just to use Raspberry Pi OS and then install Motion I on top, which I'm totally fine with. So we're probably just going to go with that instead. All right, well, hopefully this is the last time we have to do this little back and forth motion. We'll see though, we'll see. It freaking worked, guys. Something about that OS image, I guess, was just busted. It wouldn't pick up anything, but yeah, it looks like we are where we need to be. Yeah. Alright, well, I can't really record this while I do it, so I'm just going to get the equipment down and get this thing set up, and then maybe we can be on our way. Okay, it has now been about a month since I recorded that original footage you just watched, and I completely forgot to record everything else that happened. Basically what happens after I cut off that footage is I get Motion Eye set up and installed on the Raspberry Pi, and I cannot recognize the camera. Or rather, Motion Eye won't recognize the camera at all. I tried a bunch of different suggestions, including running updates on the operating system, trying to update Motion Eye, but I just installed it. It was the newest version, and it was seemingly really, really difficult to find a proper solution. I then found an article that recommended me to test the camera via a command that you can run in the terminal that will show you what cameras are attached. And that didn't see any cameras either. And I was like, dang, maybe my camera's busted. So here's the process I went through, okay? I tried switching to the smaller cable. That didn't work. I tried taking off the lighting modules on the camera. That didn't work. Obviously, the camera was getting lights. We can see that from the video, but it just would not pick up. Nothing would work. After a lot more research, and a couple days later, I found something that said basically that the version of Raspbian OS that I was using changed something about the way that it handles cameras, and so plugging a camera into the ribbon cable connector on the board just does not work properly anymore. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just downgrade to an older version. That was also easier said than done. I had to hunt down the freaking ISO for it because Raspberry Pi didn't offer it on their website anymore. I couldn't find any not sketchy websites that were offering it, and eventually I just had to settle and say, man, I really hope I don't get a virus while doing this. But I ended up finding it finally. So I believe I downgraded from Bullseye to Buster, and that worked. So once I did that, I tested the cameras again via the terminal. It picked them up, and in fact it showed an image this time, so I knew the cameras were working now. So I reattached the longer ribbon cable and hooked it back up, and I went and tested it, and sure enough, it worked just fine. We did it, guys. It's really stupid, man. I mean, like, this process literally took way longer than it was supposed to. It was supposed to be done in one day, and it ended up taking about a week before I finally got it figured out. But now it's pulling camera feed just perfectly. I can access it via the IP address, and it works beautifully. It really is awesome what you're able to do with, I mean, just a computer that's, you know, this big, and a couple little peripherals that don't really cost that much. This video is not a tutorial. I'm gonna go ahead and say that right now. I think you could tell by the way that it was done that it's not a tutorial. There's much better ways to do this. I was thinking about linking the tutorials that I used in the description, but I'm not gonna do that just because they're kind of way outdated. Like I said, like you saw, the first one recommended that I use Motion iOS, and I've seen people who say that it works, but it just would not work on my system, so I'm not gonna recommend that because then you run into the trouble I ran into. Just install Raspbian, install Motion Eye, make sure it's Raspbian Buster and not anything newer than that, and you'll be fine. It'll work out just fine, probably. But yeah, this project was a lot of fun. I want to do more projects like this, preferably without so much trouble. Even like the 2DS, right? Like, I still don't know what's up with that. I'm still having to figure it out. I thought this was going to be the same situation where I started it and then it didn't go like I expected, and then I have to wait even longer to figure out what was wrong with it. But luckily, this one went mostly okay. I just forgot to get all the extra footage for it, so I'm sorry. I should have done that. That's genuinely my bad. But all you would have seen was me sitting there, turning it off, unplugging everything, trying something different, plugging it back in, turning it back on. It's probably good that I didn't record all that. But yeah, with all that said, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, this project is kind of wrapped up real nicely. I got the camera mounted. Like I said, I do use it, so I'm very happy with how this turned out. I would recommend trying things like this. You know, if you're like me and you're kind of getting weary of the Internet of Things and especially offerings that you don't have full control over, try something out like this. It doesn't have to be a Raspberry Pi. You can set up a camera array on a small computer. You can set it up on your laptop and use it as a home computer server type deal and just run cameras off of it. You can do that. You don't have to do it this way. I was just trying to find a way that would be compact and power efficient. and especially user-friendly, but still completely open source for obvious reasons. Internet's a scary place, dude. So, you know, if this is interesting to you, I'd recommend doing something similar. Not the way I did it. Do it right. Don't use this as a tutorial. I already said that, but I'm gonna say it again. Anyway, smash that subscribe button, lick that like button, tickle that bell, if you will. That's what people say, that, right? I think. But for real, it would mean a lot. This video took way longer to come out than it was supposed to. Like I said, right now is a month from when the footage was recorded, just because I've been lazy, and also I was working on the Minecraft video. So, but yeah, so I'm glad this video is out now. More stuff to come. I'm hoping to do another Lost Apps next, because I want to do that again. And then after that, I'm not too sure. I'm working on a long video right now, like a video, not necessarily the video itself is long in length, but the process of making the video is probably going to be a couple months of just one video. Don't get excited about that. It's probably not that big of a deal, but things are being worked on, I promise. I'm not done with it yet. I get kind of lazy sometimes, but I still like this YouTube thing, so I don't plan on dipping anytime soon. Anyway, yeah, thanks. Bye.